Spent countless hours in the garage with your dad. Now investing in that old car and working on it with your son reminds you of him. And his legacy lives on. Fund your passion with a low-interest home equity line of credit from Bank of Blue Valley.
What are you doing?
I'm just playing a little basketball. How are you doing?
Such a cheese ball. I'm good. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. You know, in the pre-show, we're talking everything about how amazing the theater network is to then the shooters at the Grandview Triangle from 15 years ago. It's a wacky day. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I was there too.
Well, I know. That was the crazy thing. I mean, you know, this old millennial here, you know, is too busy, you know, hanging out in Lawrence, Kansas. So, you know, I don't know if I really remember it too much.
Have you been watching these Chiefs games?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Aaron. Yeah. I mean, duh.
Are you
just into Chiefs games?
Well, okay. I have something really important to talk about when it comes to the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Are you so excited that Travis Kelce is dating Taylor Swift?
I did not get confirmation. I was getting a little rowdy this weekend. So, okay. You know what? That's
I watch a lot of TikTok, and there's been a lot of things that make sense. I'm pretty sure they're dating.
I think that's amazing for Kansas City. You know, a girl looking for a good Midwestern boy.
It's like my two worlds coming together is really what I'm excited about. Hey, you know what I did this weekend? Have you ridden the Barbie streetcar yet?
There's a Barbie streetcar?
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Would my little girl like it?
Yes.
Okay. I would love it. Yeah.
They always decorate the streetcars, and they have one of them. It actually doesn't say, fun fact, it doesn't say Barbie. This is where our city, can somebody send this to the city so they'll hire me for their marketing? This is where our city messed up. They did this whole streetcar after the Barbie movie came out. It doesn't say Barbie anywhere. It says Dream Streetcar, but it's very clearly a Barbie streetcar. However, there was $150 million Barbie budget. Why could we have not done that beforehand and tapped in and got some money for the city for marketing?
That would have been a friend of ours that's been a guest on the show twice, Frank White III. That's the head of the Transportation Authority. And Aaron, you are correct. That would have been a very good idea.
But it's very cool and it's very fun. I have a little girl, so we went down there, and you know, there's 4 streetcars that run. I think it's 4 that run throughout the day. So we had to wait for a couple of them to come by. There was like a Casey Current one, there was like a candy one, and then there was like a regular one. And there's so many families that were down there with their little girls to ride the streetcar. And then the inside's decorated. It's really fun. You should take your little girl down there.
Oh my gosh. You know what? You and I may not have to spend any money on a Casey Current bus crawl to the game. We can just take the streetcar.
Yeah, I mean, once it's built out there, but the streetcar is pretty cool. What else you been up to?
I just realized, I don't know if we told our panelists, who everyone's here to see, that in the pre-show, we do a little banter to pump up Bank of Blue Valley and Burns McDonnell, the amazing sponsors that make the world go round. But other than that, I'm not to anything. You?
Well, I have to block Amy. Amy says hello, and then she says she's not excited about Travis and Taylor, so I'm trying to block her. I'm just kidding, Amy. I'm excited about it, Amy. Get excited. And Andrew says he didn't know. I don't know what this is. We'll have to ask him. I don't know what that means. I don't know if he's not excited about Taylor and Travis, or he doesn't know about the streetcar. There's so many places that could go.
You want to know how I'm old, Aaron?
No, because you're not as old as me, so I don't think it's cool to say that.
Because you're way younger. It's because I get my news feeds on Facebook, and it's the Kansas City Star. So it's like 2 old people stuff, Facebook and the Kansas City Star. That's how I'm getting tipped off right now.
Amy just wants to date Travis. If you need to have the best time of your life, watch the New Heights podcast. Scott, I'm going to actually show you on TikTok, this last thing, and then we're going to bring in our thing. I'm just letting more people get on here and watch. The other day, I actually did a TikTok. Okay, it was this picture, and there's a trend on TikTok, and you play that 7 summers ago song, and you show something from 7 years ago, and then now. And I did this TikTok where I showed this picture of me and Travis and said 2016 buddies to we've never been each other's guests on the show.
Oh, nice.
So I'm trying to get him on here, Scott. I'm trying.
I think it may have to wait till the off season, but we may know a personal trainer or two.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, if you're watching from LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, will you please tell us where you're watching from? Look like there's a lot of people watching today, and I'm terrible today. So sorry about that, guys.
I think your hair looks phenomenal. You look great. You look very hydrated and well rested.
Oh, you know why that is, Scott?
Because you didn't drink hard at the Chiefs game, even though they're out of town.
No, well, I just said I'm terrible. I didn't say I look terrible, first of all. Let's be clear. But it's just because I had a bunch of work done on my face last week.
Ooh.
This is what happens when you get actually old. All right, look, Amy's watching on LinkedIn, and I know more than Amy's watching here. Oh, Harry's watching on LinkedIn.
Oh, the greatest.
I love Harry. Okay, well, nobody cares about us. Let's bring in our guests. You guys ready? Do you want to play this? Absolutely. Oh, Michael's watching on LinkedIn.
Is it Walking Duck?
I'm not playing that.
Let's dance.
This is the one. As Michael's coming. This box is worse. All right, we're going to go with the first. And then in the order you came in. Our very first guest is Jennifer Harvey. Jennifer Morgan. And because I have like 3 options for music, so sorry about that. How are you guys? I'm so excited you guys are all here.
Excellent. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so Jennifer, who are you? What do you do? How do you get to Kansas City? And how do you feel about Travis and Taylor?
Oh, very good. All right. I'm Jennifer Harvey. I'm the founder and CEO of the Journey Home Team with Compass Realty Group. I came to Kansas City in 1988 via mini moves through Missouri, Oklahoma, and Florida. And how do I feel about, was that it? Taylor and Travis. Well, I'm here for it. I cannot wait to hear the song she is going to write after the breakup.
Yes.
It's going to be awesome.
They may never break up. They may live together.
Well, then all those love you songs are great too.
I love it. All right, tell us a little bit about, so you're kind of a badass in the real estate.
Yeah.
Everywhere I drive, I see your signs, especially in that Western Shawnee area. I feel like every new development I see, your name is on. So kind of talk to us about how you got into real estate, then how you started taking over the real estate world.
I'm going to be on my 20th year in May, which is insane.
Whoa.
I'm not that old, you guys, but time says otherwise. But so got into real estate because I was a young mother and wanted to kind of have my own schedule, which is hilarious, as any realtor knows, because you don't have nearly as much time as you think when you go into this business. And so started my team, which used to be called the Jennifer Harvey team, in 2009. And, we just try and do the best that we can for our clients. And I've been very blessed to have repeat clients, referral business. And then this beginning of this year, we changed our name to the Journey Home Team, and it's been amazing. So everything is going good.
Can you talk about that name change? Because real estate is
You asked a branding question. You knew it was coming.
Well, real estate is such a different world to me, right? Because like the broker versus the agent versus all of that. And I feel like most of us know, and maybe this is really going to show my what an idiot I am. But I feel like a lot of us know real estate, like what we associate real estate with is there's so many real estate reality shows at this point that
Right.
that's where a lot of us are getting our information. And so I feel like that a lot of my personal experiences, I feel like a lot of people are doing it under their own name, but then all those reality shows and everything you see there's like bigger names. So how does one make that decision, and why change after 20 years?
That's a great question. So I obviously, as a Jennifer Harvey team, everybody knows that's me, right? And so it was a very big decision, but I went to a Compass retreat about exactly a year ago, and Mel Robbins spoke. And if you don't know Mel Robbins and listen to her, she's amazing. And somebody said, asked a question about goals. I don't remember what the question was, but her answer was, what do you want to do in 10 years? Whatever you're doing today is what's going to get you to 10 years from now. And I had kind of been thinking I wanted to change my name, but it was at that moment that I'm like, we need to do this, because the reality is 10 years from now, I want my business to look totally different. And guess what? It may not even include me. And so that was kind of the pivotal moment. And then also I feel like so from a branding perspective, it's so much easier to market ourselves as Journey Home Team than it is as Jennifer Harvey Team. It's right out there. What do? We take you on a journey home, or we take you on a journey to sell your house. So we are up 20% over last year. I'm only saying that to say that I wish I would have done this so long ago, because the impact that our clients, they love it, and just our team loves it. So for me, I don't have a huge ego. So it was easy for me to step back and say, we're going to do this. And then eventually someday, if somebody wants to take over the team, they don't have to be known as Jennifer Harvey. So
that's wild. You're up 20% considering the market changed so much, right?
I know. Yes, we're very fortunate.
So I'm going to do my best Aaron Fulk impression to ask a branding question that led to 3 questions that you answered. Do you feel the growth of your company is due to where you've invested inside the metro?
Yes, but honestly, I feel the growth of the company is because we restructured, and I have people in place now to help my agents and to help our clients. So I feel that's where it's come from. And then a true focus on our COI and growing that and nurturing that.
So, when you look at like the outskirts of Lee's Summit and Lenexa, to me as an outsider, I see way more growth than
you're talking about just in the city.
Yeah, I feel like you are at the epicenter of people just buying homes like hotcakes, but you've been ingrained there ahead of everyone. So how did you know to do that, or was it coincidence, or what was the whole thought process there?
Because you are running Western Shawnee.
Well, we actually, interestingly enough, we this year have done more business in Missouri than we ever have. So so we've expanded. I have an agent that I call her Miss Cleveland, because she does so much in Cleveland, Missouri, and Freeman, Missouri. So we've never pigeonholed ourselves into we're just going to be Shawnee. The reason you see me so much in Shawnee is because of the new homes and because I've lived here for 23 years. So my base is here. But as a team, as a whole, we're all over. We're, Lee's Summit. I just did a deal there a month ago. Overland Park, Spring Hill, Lewisburg. So we're kind of everywhere in the metro. So we don't just stick in like one specific Leewood or anything like that. And I think that helps us grow.
Do you like doing those? So I think as a real estate agent, again, I don't know your industry at all, but I watch a lot of Selling Sunset. I feel like getting one of those neighborhoods, I feel like that's kind of like winning the lottery in real estate, right? Once you develop one of those relationships and you get the whole neighborhood. So can you just talk a little bit about A, am I right on that? And then B, how do you go about those? Like, how do those relationships come and how do you nurture those versus a one-off sell here and there, which are great, but it just kind of seems like
right. Yeah, for sure. I started my team overnight to be in a new home community. I literally had a builder call me and say, do you do new homes? I said, sure. I'd sat on a neighborhood for 2 months. Bring your team over. I didn't have a team. I formed it overnight. We got the business. And yes, having that consistent ability to list homes and sell homes and get those people to, like, somebody comes in the neighborhood, they need to buy this house, but they need to sell their house. So that was very pivotal, and just nurturing relationships with builders and developers. I've been very fortunate to do that. My mom was the first project manager when I was growing up in Tulsa. My brother was a developer, so that was just natural to me to want to do that. And then afterwards, after you finish a neighborhood, you keep going in that neighborhood and keep farming and building those relationships because they already see your face everywhere and know you're the neighborhood expert.
Yeah, that seems like the way to go. Good job.
Oh, why? Thank you.
All right, Andrew, who are you? What do you do? How do you get to Kansas City? And how do you feel about Taylor and Travis?
Let's start with Taylor and Travis, probably the good stuff. I don't know. He's been a Super Bowl champion with his last girlfriend, so I kind of would like to see him get back together with her. I also think she's really beautiful. So I mean, why change it if it's working, kind of thing? Like, we already got championships. I worry about Taylor. Like, she might be too much. They might fall in love. He might get distracted. He's 33. We need him at his best right now. You saw us when he didn't play, we lost. So it's just, I mean, there's a lot to play with. There's a lot of emotions riding on this, and I would be careful.
Really into it.
And also, like, she's a star, and he might not be used to that. It might really throw him off his game. I don't know. At the same time, she might be the muse too. So I don't know. It's risky, guys. We're talking about football here.
So many curveballs.
I don't know. I try to just, like, watch from the outside and not get too invested. But
Clearly,
I'm Andrew Morgans. Kansas City has been home for me off and on since I was a kid. I was actually born in Montreal. Came here as like a week old. Was on my way to Africa, Cameroon, Botswana, Moscow, Congo. Went to college in Hawaii on Oahu. Finished here at Park University in 2009. Took me a long time. I was playing music full time, so I took my time through college. And I've been here probably since 2007 from Hawaii. And I started Marknology almost 10 years ago. So I've been an entrepreneur, a business owner for the last 10 years. Marknology is a full service e-commerce agency, but I really like to think I'm a serial entrepreneur as well. From property management and Airbnb, short-term rentals to I own 9 or 10 e-commerce consumer-based brands. So a little bit of everything. I just like creating something from nothing. I think I really like that beginning stage of bringing something to life. And we help brands, from mom and pop shops all the way up to brands in the Fortune 20. Top brands, help them on marketplaces like Amazon, Target, Walmart, help them optimize with their branding, really tell their story, bring their products to life. So that's a little bit about me and, what I've been doing the last 10 years. And Kansas City has always been home, whether we were in Cameroon or Moscow, whatever. We were honestly, like, the Chiefs were actually my tie to home. So we would make some military friends and watch the Chiefs on Armed Forces Network. And that was kind of my tie to home. So relevant question today.
I like it. I love how it was such a different answer than Jennifer had, because I kind of changed my mind in the process. What are the, there's a lot of different things, and Aaron knows your business really well, but what are the top revenue generators for your business that your clients need your services for?
So I would be, trying to get on Amazon. People are like, well, okay, what is selling on Amazon? A lot of people think they're buying from Amazon. They're not. There's all the brands that you know of, like Nestle Toll House or beverages, chips, cameras. All of these brands represent themselves or someone else is representing them on Amazon. So it's a whole entire business model, from the media buying and advertising to the way that the images present and the video and all of that. So brands will hire us to either educate their teams or do it for them. We act like a fractional team. Most companies don't have one, much less 2, 3, 4 people handling e-commerce. So we kind of come in alongside that e-commerce professional in that company, then help them in the marketplaces with our specialty. Something kind of fun. We recently became, we're an Amazon certified partner agency. Like, we're on Amazon's website as an agency that can help people with that, or brands with that. Like things like Faultless Brands, for example, would have came to us and said, hey, help us look great on Amazon, help us get in front of more people, help us update our images and branding and all those kinds of things. So that's what we do in a nutshell. Something new to us as I'm building my own brands. That's been a big part of my journey the last 10 years is I've done this for other people and learned along the way, but I'm trying to build my own brands as well. And so as I get closer to that, I've wanted to understand the off Amazon marketing channels. So, Facebook ads, Instagram, blogs, websites, funnels, email marketing, all those kinds of things that kind of go hand in hand with what we do on Walmart or Target. And we became a TikTok agency along the way. So TikTok reached out to us, kind of saw what we were doing, and was like, wow, we're looking for young, smaller agencies that are able to adopt what we're doing pretty quickly. And so we're also working with brands on TikTok in regards to strategy. How are they working with user-generated content, influencers, like we talked about? How do we use podcasts, channels like that? How do we use those to grow your brand? Everything evolves like super, super quick. And yeah, that's some of the stuff we're doing.
Are you doing a lot with the TikTok shop?
We are. So that's where.
Now, back up for the audience. Got to explain it.
So TikTok
What's that
shop.
mean?
TikTok shop is a new selling channel. Some people are comparing it even to an Amazon or a Walmart because from images to fulfillment to advertising to marketing, it's all right there in TikTok shop. So if you're on TikTok and you're scrolling and you see a product you like, pretty soon, because not everyone's there, but there's a little button in the second to the left that you can hit shop and you can just buy it right there, similar to like Instagram shopping or buying on Facebook, just a little bit more legitimate. So like, let's say TikTok shop has been in the US for 120 days or so. I think Marknology has been a partner for 90 days. So, we're partnered there with TikTok, helping brands get set up on shop, helping them work with influencers to help them create content. A lot of brands don't create content for themselves. So helping them get a strategy. How do we want this to be presented? Who do we want to represent the brand? Anyone from realtors. You talk about the reality shows on realtors, the reality shows on things. People just want to know what people are doing. And I think that you can have let's say it's Storage Wars or something like this. Reality TV kind of showed us that people do interesting things, even if we don't know exactly what that looks like. And people will be interested to say, how do I do that myself? Or, wow, what kind of treasures are they going to find? Are they treasure hunting? That's kind of think what the house market can be too for a lot of people is, oh, what can this old thing turn into, and how can it turn into a treasure? And people just get really interested in that. So we help them kind of navigate that, come up with ideas as well as execute.
Have you seen, I'm going to geek out on TikTok here for a second. Andrew, have you seen the creators? I can't think of their names. They're boyfriend and girlfriend, and they set up cameras everywhere, and they're live 24/7, and they've got thousands of people watching at any point during the day. And it's really interesting to see the dichotomy from like reality shows, which aren't reality, to this, right? And how Gen Z is so tapped into this. I mean, they've garnered a couple million followers in the past 2 weeks.
Okay, I'm going to take this a little bit of a left turn, but my dad made me watch this crazy movie. I'm not going to think of it, but maybe you guys can help me. And it was about this guy. The whole movie was like a couple hours long. My dad used to just make me watch these artsy movies. We're talking about theater early, right? And he climbs a ladder and he sits on this ladder all day and observes a person in the house. That's just kind of what's happening before social media, before influencing like this. I'll try to find it for you guys, but it's a really old take on the same thought process of someone just observing someone doing life in the nuance of the the day-to-day and just the norm and kind of what that person observing it came up with. That's too much for me. As I maybe it's been therapy over the last 5 years, I don't know, but I can't take that level of attention. I'm too aware, I guess, of people's energies and my own and protecting it. I can't imagine, someone hearing you pass gas or fight with your loved one or burp or, I don't know, just constantly being eyes on. I feel like I would get canceled in probably 30 minutes, but to each their own. If it's working for them, I say go for it.
It's interesting. Okay, I have another question. So I do a lot of studying industry, and a couple weeks ago, I'm not going to know really what I'm talking about, so hopefully you can answer this. But in one of the podcasts I was listening to, they talked about how Amazon is changing up quite a bit with bringing their own brands in-house and kind of changing their business model there. Can you talk a little bit to that and how that'll affect your business?
Yeah, so Amazon, we think of them as this giant monopoly, but they're a startup in a lot of ways. They stay in that format. They're really built up of a lot of small companies trying different things that they just kind of bolt in or take it out. So they've been doing Amazon Live. They've been doing Amazon posts like Instagram. They've been putting a lot of money into international expansion in a lot of ways, kind of becoming the global logistical giant like they did in the US. They're changing a lot of ways. It's getting very, very hard. It's why a lot of Amazon sellers are looking, I say Amazon sellers or brands selling on Amazon are looking to, hey, how's TikTok or Google ads or email? How can these other things work for me? Because Amazon's getting hard. I've seen them kind of pull away from. So Amazon was very much built for the customer. If you guys remember, I know it's happened. So technology moves so fast, but not that many people were buying online. Amazon came out with the 2-day shipping, like Amazon Prime back in the day, and it really brought a lot of trust from average people like me and you to buying something online. Instead of waiting 3 weeks maybe for this website we don't know to send it to us or even email us back, we now had this channel where if it didn't come in 2 days, they would send you a free one. And like that made everyone just start believing in e-commerce. It kind of broke the mold. And so they're still doing a lot of those things, and it's very customer focused. But I do feel like there's been this shift to start thinking about the seller for the very first time on Amazon. Etsy built for the seller, eBay built for the seller, Fair.com built for the seller. A lot of different channels are built for the person selling the thing, and Amazon was built for the person getting the thing, the customer. And now they're just changing things from agency tools. Like, we're an agency partner. They flew me into Seattle and had me talk at a round table about their Amazon advertising product and what we thought, and taking feedback and actually like listening to us as sellers and agencies and partners. So I feel like there's just a big shift there. Like they've decided that now's the time to start helping brands and manufacturers and stuff succeed. So I've seen them actually pull back their private label brand, like that great value brand you'd find in Walmart, or there was a big push for those, and I've seen them kind of pull back at the same time recently.
Which is funny because TikTok Shop is that 2-day rule, right? Like the if I'm right, I believe this, unless this has changed the past few days, but the seller has to get it out within 2 to 3 days, correct?
They have to get it out in 2 or 3 days. If you remember, Amazon at the time had it to your door in 2 days. And the way that they did that in the early days, without getting too technical, is at the beginning, it was just Amazon's sales team going out to all the big brands in America and saying, we want to buy your product. So those brands were not really selling in e-commerce yet. They weren't really navigating the marketplace. They just had a big PO from a company called Amazon. They sent them pallets of product, and then Amazon was selling it as Amazon and getting product to everyone in 2 days and eating the losses on that. They were not making money. They were losing money like crazy, but they were buying trust. They were buying reputation. They were buying brand. Then they made a pivot and said, okay, all these products that are like super small and we're losing money on, we're not going to sell these directly as Amazon anymore. All you brands, manufacturers that are on this like sales drip, so to speak, need to figure out how to put this into 4-packs or 10-packs or kits, or maybe not sell on Amazon or raise your price. So then the sellers needed people like us to kind of come in and really help them navigate this and make it happen, because they were actually having to sell in e-commerce versus Amazon doing it for them. So Amazon's kind of always evolving, and kind of like, they push you to have to like learn things. And it was 2 days. I remember if it wasn't on your house in 2 days, it was like I was getting a free one. It was coming in the mail. They were just replacing stuff at that point. They were eating it. They were just taking costs, taking a loss on a lot of products at that time. But they really did change the game for everyone. I think it's just on shops. I think you just have to ship it in 2 days.
Well, and you know what's crazy though, on TikTok, the organic is so good, and then we have to stop talking our geeked out talk because everyone else is like, what the F? But on shops, what's so crazy is it's such small businesses, and the organic still will just hit so well that it's actually shutting down businesses if they're not on top of it. They go to sleep and something goes viral, it can actually shut down a business because it's shops being pushed so much over there. So it's really interesting.
Same thing on Amazon in the early days. Like if you weren't using Amazon's fulfillment service, most warehouses, 3PLs, I own a warehouse myself here in Kansas City, 4 years now, Aaron. I've had a warehouse 4 years, but if you weren't sending product into Amazon to have it like Prime and you were shipping it yourself, like you had to get it out in 1 day or they would shut your store down if you started like missing all these handling time things. So this was just so no one could imagine shipping something in 1 day back then, much less 2 days. Like it was just not something that warehouses did direct to consumer. So people were getting shut down left and right. And I think TikTok's kind of having that same effect as early Amazon, if I'm being honest, even to the point where people that aren't the brands are listing other brands' products on shop, finding success and selling through. Like Stanley You guys know Stanley the Cups. I think they're doing over $1 million a month on TikTok
I
Shop right now.
Because my TikTok follower sent it to me.
They're not even on TikTok.
I know. I mentioned on the live. I was like, "Oh, those look cool," and I got one in the mail. Okay, look. Is this the movie? Was it Wakefield? The latter movie?
I'm gonna have to check that. Why we're talking.
Okay, so look, we've got. Well, thank you, Andrew, for being here. We've got Catherine. She just got here, and we've got Woozy, who is just joining from LinkedIn, and then we've got Paul, who is excited to see Dan from LinkedIn. All right, Dan, who are you? What do you do? How do you get to Kansas City? And what do you think about Taylor and Travis?
Okay, so hi everybody, Dan Stalp, and I run a Sandler office here in town, and we provide performance improvement for customer-facing people. So that's obviously salespeople, the people they report to, which could be the managers or directors and the owners, and then anybody that interacts with the customer but doesn't necessarily have a quota. We moved here in 1993, and so we just celebrated 30 years here. And my wife had to do a 1-year residency down here through a PhD program. And we had several cities we were thinking about moving to, and found out we were pregnant right before we moved. So we thought, let's go someplace we want to stay. And we've been here ever since. Taylor Swift and Kelsey, I didn't even know. I've got other relationships I care more about than theirs, and but I think whatever makes them happy. So if it makes them happy, I'm good with that.
Okay, Dan, where's the cliff notes? Travis went to the Taylor concert with a phone number. You know, you get bracelets at the Taylor concert. He put his phone number. He then said on his podcast she wouldn't meet me, and now it's just wild.
Oh, okay.
I'm all caught up, okay?
Yep, I'm all caught up.
Go ahead.
So, Dan, the one thing I love is going to your LinkedIn profile and the amount of awards that you've received and the way that people recognize you. I think it speaks a lot to your longevity and persistence in the marketplace and how much you help other people. So kind of back everyone up of moving here in 93 and staying here. How does the professional career go? Because you've been running your office now for close to 2 decades in the heart of commerce in Kansas City. So give everyone the career path.
Yeah, so we moved here from Omaha, so it wasn't a huge leap. It's just 3 hours away, just 2.5 times bigger. But, I grew up in a small town. Actually, I grew up on a farm and went to school in a small town. So community was really important growing up there. Everybody knew everybody, and, you didn't get in a lot of trouble if you did. Everybody knew, and you helped each other out. If a neighbor had an issue, you helped them. And so when I moved to Omaha, I was able to continue that because I went to college in Nebraska and I had a bunch of high school stuff. When I moved down here, we only knew 2 other couples. So that was a little bit of a game changer. I couldn't rely on the relationships I had built the previous 20 some years. But what I really found interesting is that Kansas City is really, you've heard this before, a big, small town.
Yeah.
And we moved to 119th and Flum when we moved here, and we were maybe a half a mile from one couple that we knew. And then we're Catholic, so we go to the Catholic church, we enroll kids in Catholic schools, and then it just really kind of took off from there. I was really surprised since it's a pretty low percentage of people that are actually Catholic in Kansas City, but they're very tight-knit, and Scott knows this too. And so I think just being in Johnson County kind of chunked it down a little bit, and then I just started, my biggest thing I did right away was I started volunteering for the United Way, because I was looking for something, besides just work where I could meet people. And that was actually, 30 years ago, that was a pretty hip place to volunteer for. There was a lot of young professionals in there, and they did a lot of social events. They had a under 40 group, which that was a long time ago. But so I just started one by one meeting people. And then I had a business down here. So I was calling on folks, but it was really like we have 4 kids and they're all 30 down to 23, and just meeting people through their sports and high schools and grade schools and in college. And next thing you know a lot of people.
What neighborhood did you live in?
We lived in Heatherstone when we first moved here, and we lived there for 10 years.
I live in Tree Meadows. It's right across the street.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We really liked it there. And then we moved down to another Rod Rock subdivision. Jennifer's probably familiar with the Rod Rock subdivisions, but we moved to another one called Amesbury Lake, which is about 3 miles south of there. And it was just a bigger house for more kids and teenagers and all that stuff.
I love how Aaron lit up because you guys thought you were going to be neighbors.
Well, because 30 years ago when he said he lived here, this was a lake neighborhood and there was a beach, and it was like really cool to be able to come to the beach in my neighborhood. And now the HOA, the old versus the new, is just the whole thing about this beach that's not here anymore. So I didn't know that he was young and hip, so I thought he went to the beach.
No, is that just by Rose Hill? 119th and Rose Hill? Yeah.
Yeah.
I always wondered about that. I didn't know that.
Could have done some networking there. That's all I'm saying.
Dan, when we look at Andrew's business and Jennifer's business and your business, there's just a lot of staying power. How do you continue to motivate yourself every single year? You own your own business. It's going great. What's the outside factor that's just motivating you to push to continue to grow it after already having so much success?
Paul Fogel, who he chimed in here, he and I have been accountability partners on our behavior for a long time. So that's is every week we turn in the behaviors that we have 100% control over. Because what I find is it is easy to just let things kind of fade and slide, and sometimes success breeds success, and sometimes success breeds just sitting on your butt and not doing anything. So part of it's that, that he and I keep each other accountable, and our businesses have both really flourished through that. And then the other part is, I grew up on a farm. It was just beat into us. You just do what you need to do every day. In fact, Jennifer, you mentioned Mel Robbins.
Uh-huh.
So I'm sure you've heard her 5 seconds of courage thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So basically when you're putting something off, or you don't know if you want to do it, you don't feel like doing it, you count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that's what they used to do with the astronaut. And then it just take off all that power. So that's something, I probably heard that podcast, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, but that was a good reminder to just get going. Just, if you're laying in bed, you don't want to get up, just start walking. And then, get up, start walking. Next thing you know, you feel better and you're on your day. But the longer you lay there, the worse it gets. That's
right.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here. Now we're going to do our Burns and McDonnell question of the day. I love this one. All right, Jennifer, as soon as it's done, then you get an answer, okay?
Hi, my name is Eric Heidenreich. I'm an engineering recruiter with Burns & McDonnell, looking for the best talent every day. We're all not perfect, but how do you handle mistakes?
That's a great question. I was just talking about this yesterday with a new mom, and so I'll talk about it in two ways. But she was asking for parenting advice, and I said, the best thing I can remember doing is, you all, as a mom or dad, we have those days where we just lose it with our kids, and then you have that, oh my gosh, I can't do that. And I just said, own that with your kids, because I can remember doing that one time, being like, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have done that. And it just, we're human, right? We're parents, we're working, whatever. And so that, and then as a team lead, making sure that I own anything, I always say it starts at the top with me. And so if you show that to your team members, that you will make sure that you own all those mistakes and you learn from those mistakes. I think that it's just a great example to others. So own it.
I like that. Even when they're teenagers and they totally push you to lose it.
Wait, yeah, how does that work with kids? But so another thing, Jennifer, in the real estate, you're always thinking on your feet. So do you expect more out of your people because that is a trait they need to have in your business, of owning it and admitting it quickly?
Yeah. What I expect my team to do is to know their market. And so, because you're going to get asked, especially now, so crazy and it's changing every day. So yeah, make sure that you know your stuff so you can talk about it. But one of the biggest things I always tell my team is, if you don't know something, don't try and fake it till you make it. Just say, you know what, that's a great question. Let me get back to you. So I think that's something that a lot of people feel like they have to answer. I'd rather them just say, I don't know, but I'm going to find out. So that's a big one. Teenagers. Oh, wow. But yes, I still have memories, especially with my daughter, of losing my mind and her losing her mind with me. And then as much as I didn't want to say I'm sorry first, going and saying you're sorry first, and then just repairing that because they're hormonal and there's a lot going on there.
There could be like support groups for parents with teenagers.
Yeah, me too.
Honestly, that's where I'm at right now in my life. Okay, Andrew, how do you handle mistakes?
I think I have to echo her statements a little bit. I think Extreme Ownership is a book that comes to mind. It just really changed my perspective on a lot of things. A good reminder. I don't know if you guys read the book, but it's just talking about it's the Navy SEALs, and they take like kind of like their missions and relate them to business. They're now business consultants, and just talk about being at the top. And there's a level to everything that happens that is as part of your accountability and ownership. And so if you take ownership for the big things, it's really easy to just, that trickles down. It's just easier to take ownership. I remember something growing up, we're talking about teenagers, and I feel like if, let's say my dad's like, hey, the dog got out. How did that happen? Who left the gate open? And I don't know. You're just like, you're not sure you did it. You definitely don't want to lie. You're going to get in trouble if you say yes. You don't want to lie. So you're like, I don't know. And I remember him being like, well, why don't you just go to your room and think about it and let me know when you figure it out. And I could either sit there a long time, or I could come back pretty quickly and just own it and get on to whatever punishment was going to happen, And I think that's the same a little bit in business, as a silly way of relating that. But I think when your team can see you lead by example and take ownership for things, or even when it's their mistake, you kind of team up next to them and take ownership with it as their leader and help them push through it. That's what we do. When mistakes happen, you just roll up your sleeves, whether you're on the farm or in the digital weeds, so to speak. You just kind of roll up your sleeves and you're like, well, we messed up. I'll mess up tomorrow. Let's just get it done and take care of things. So I think also as a leader, it's much easier to be soft in the big mess ups. And, like when someone really messes up, we just all handle it with grace and dig in together. And then, kind of really making sure people take that ownership on the smaller things if they're trying to work their way up, and so showing them how to take this isn't a really big thing. It's not a get you fired type of thing. Let's take ownership for this. So just some of my little tips that I do probably in the day to day.
Like when we made this show for 3 a.m. this morning, that mistake. Did you guys all see that?
Aaron, I loved it because it got us better viewership because people were texting and they're like, hey, can I set my alarm at 3 a.m.? And it confused me. And then I texted you, and then you're like, Scott, you're being nice, but you're like, hey, you're an idiot, hey, that's not that smart.
I didn't even respond to you, actually.
But you're thinking I know what you're thinking through your text. But
No,
I'm like,
damn it, I
think it generated more opportunity for the show. So I thought it was a good thing.
And people got notifications at 1 a.m. that the show was starting. So that was great too. So it's just like top
Your international following was probably pumped,
Yeah. We're killing it in Croatia.
Bye, Michael. Okay. How about you, Dan? How do you handle mistakes?
I would agree with the accepting responsibility. I'm going to throw a little twist in this. Sometimes it's a difference of opinion versus a mistake. So I think that's an opportunity to grow. You might go I don't quite understand, that I made a mistake, but you know what you know. I think it's a great opportunity to just say, well, hey, what would you have done, or how would you have handled that? Because that sometimes allows for me to understand that, yeah, it was, or I hate to say this, but sometimes their stuff. And so, I think we got to take responsibility for what's our stuff, but sometimes it's not what it appears.
100%.
If it's a mistake, it's a mistake, but sometimes it's just one person's opinion.
Jonathan's barking. Sorry. I'm just going to put you on mute for a second until Dan's done talking. Go ahead. Dan.
Oh, am I going? Okay.
Yeah,
I was sure I put on mute. I was just saying sometimes it's just a difference of opinion, and there's no factual. It's just opinion. So I'm always open to hearing other people's opinions. So what would you have done, or how would you have handled that? Sometimes helps sort that out.
Dan, do you ever just not respond? because you interact with so many people, but it's kind of like sometimes, like when you disagree with someone, it's like, sometimes do you, I feel like the older we get, the more you're like, does it deserve a response? You know what I mean? Instead of like trying to argue, like, how do you deal with that?
Well, I think especially if it's like a text or something, if it's just a statement, there's no question, don't need to respond.
Yeah.
I mean, that was what they said, and so why I don't have to defend what they said. Now, if they ask a question, I would respond. Yeah, because sometimes then you say something, they say something, then it's just down this really crazy land route. And sometimes they're done and they just move on and nothing needs to be said.
Like I don't respond to you, Scott.
No, I think that's all the women in my life, It's just like all these business partners.
Check if you're asking a question. If you ask a question, then they have.
Yeah.
Scott sends me the nicest texts, and I always mean to respond. I'm 782 texts in to respond to right now. So
Yeah. I think it's also normal that psychologically with people that we work with all the time, that we naturally, and I'm guilty of it too, that we just don't respond or give them the attention we need. And, but like, when someone reaches out to you and it's like once every 4 months, you're like, bang, hey, what's going on? And so I think it's natural. People got to give themselves grace, but also like our personal relationships, you got to make sure
exactly.
There's a balance, but I think it's human nature. It's like human nature. You want what you can't have. If someone talks to you all the time, you take it for granted. So it's actually, I do it myself.
I'm a little bit opposite. I think if you're living with me in the trenches day to day, helping me do stuff, helping me do life, helping, cooking dinner together, eating together, doing the dog, whatever the case is, I give you priority. Those are the ones that get my priority versus the ones that just pop in and you expect me to drop everything and say hello. That's me personally, but I also get that, you're an old friend hitting you up and you're like, wow, haven't heard from you in a while, and you're going to jump in there. But, in business, this is happening constantly, like 24/7, especially if you've been in the game a while. And so I try to prioritize the people in my inner circle the most, like my team the most, because they're the ones helping me day in and day out overcome those mistakes or those wins. And one other thing I wanted to add was, it's about hiring too. So how we handle mistakes, I've really discovered that. I've tried to create a culture, at least in Marknology. We're doing tons of stuff at lightning speed. We make mistakes. And we want a culture here that asks questions. Like Aaron, I don't love how Aaron kind of like makes herself sound dumb before she asks the question. I don't like that part, Aaron. But you ask a question even if you don't know. And you're like, this is a chance to learn. I don't know that much about real estate, but what about this? What about that? What about this? That's how you learn something. And if you're in a tech company that's forward and trying to learn new things, that's all the time, right? That's all the time.
Let me tell you, Andrew, the difference between you and I. And this is I'm probably showing my age when I do that. And I think Jennifer might agree with me. I don't know. I think she might. But there was a time very early on in my career where I definitely fucking knew the answer. Oh, I'm not supposed to say that. My bad. But I definitely knew the answer. But you had to preface it to many bosses beforehand, specifically male bosses, that it was their idea or that you were dumb to be able to move your agenda forward. We've come a long way, but I'm about to be 44, right? So I'm talking 20 years ago. It was a much different landscape. And so I think that just became a habit over the years where a lot of times I know the answer, but I played dumb for so long to get my agenda moved forward.
I know. That's why I'm calling you out, because I know you're not dumb.
But now I don't even realize I do it when I do it.
Yeah.
No, and I mean it's humble and there's humility in that, and I understand that, and it's like, I'm not an expert in your field, but I just want to ask. And I think but meaning that is a great thing to do, especially as a podcast host. I'm constantly getting on conversations with people I don't know what they do, and I'm having to ask about it and inquire about it and try to lead the conversation, so I get more practice at it. But when I have a team member at Marknology, and I'll just take 1 second on this, like when I have a team member at Marknology that is going to point fingers instead of accept ownership on a mistake, it can lead to big problems here. And so they're covering stuff up. They're not, we need to be able to jump on it. These are people's businesses. We're running marketing. And so I really have to create, almost even in my hiring process, if someone becomes more of that, like I want to shine by myself instead of the team, there's not really a good fit here. And so sometimes we handle the way people handle mistakes is they're not a good fit here, and we were looking for a different kind of personality. So you're kind of cultivating your team so that it becomes easier because everyone is the same way in regards to saying, this is my mistake, guys, I need help. At least from here on out, it doesn't have to be my mistake. It can be our recovery win or whatever, you know.
Can I make a comment on Aaron's thing real quick?
I wanted you to, actually.
Okay, so a couple things. One, if you remember that people remember 80% of what they say, only 20% of what you say. So even if Aaron thinks she knows the answer, by having them say it, they are more likely to remember it and more likely to act. So there is some psychology there. But the other thing is, a lot of times when I'm training and coaching, particularly salespeople, I say, well, what do you think? What happened there? And they go, well, I think this happened. And I said, well, what do you know? And that always stops them in their tracks. So basically what they're doing is they're not asking. So even when you think you know what happened, this is your opportunity to verify what happened. So, so getting them to be able to just articulate what you think you know, but then once they say it, you're more likely to know.
Yeah.
I love that.
Can you back that stat up again for the audience to hear that? Because I guarantee whatever you just said, I'm guilty of it. I only remember like 80% of what I say and 20% of what someone else says.
Yeah, in general, you remember more of what you say than what others say, because most of us are formulating things in our heads when people are talking. So if you're telling your prospect what to do, they're formulating a response. So therefore, they're not listening to you. So if you can just flip that and say, I think I know what they would want here or need or do, but I'm going to verify that. And when they say it, you just can listen, and then they're going to remember. They won't argue with their own data.
Right.
So the only spin I have on that is I always get upset with people that try to do when they get people together for groups. I always say the only thing that people remember is when they stood up and introduced themselves and did it sound silly, and everyone laughs at that. But it's kind of like to what you're saying, Dan. It's like you have this whole meeting and you have this great speaker, and Jennifer and Andrew and Dan and Aaron are on a panel. But when I stood up and said my name and what I did, I'm critiquing what I said. And but it's really that's a stat more people need to hear.
Yeah. I mean, most people are nervous when they introduce. I mean, I'm still nervous after all these years. So that's an example. But when you're just having a conversation with somebody, that's not the same thing.
Not me. I can't wait till my turn.
Now, Aaron, do you want to ask your question?
Oh, you can ask a stupid icebreaker question. We got everyone can Andrew, only 2 minutes to answer.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Jennifer, you're up first. Who was a teacher or coach that inspired you?
Oh, that's a great one. I never played sports, so I cannot answer that way. But growing up, I mean, it's my mom, and I mean, she's probably not like my teacher, but my mom was a working woman and my dad worked for her. And just seeing that dynamic of she was his boss at work, but the minute they walked in the door, she would like, what can I get you for food? It was just like such a crazy thing. And just to see her work ethic and how hard she worked, that was a teacher to me to be, probably drove me to want to be an entrepreneur and have my own business. So I'm going to have to say my mama. And she was on my team briefly until she retired too. So that's wild. That's fun.
Well, Jennifer, since you're in the business you're in and you can think quicker than anyone, I'm going to challenge back on you to say teacher.
Okay, teacher.
It's because no one's allowed to say family.
Oh, well, you didn't say that.
No, that's back to owning my mistakes. Owning my mistakes. I am wrong, but I know you can think on your feet on the teacher side.
Yeah. So I had a great drama teacher. He's still around. His name is Max Brown. If any of those Blue Valley North people know Max Brown. And he was a great teacher because he never let me get away with anything. Like he never let me be lazy in acting. And one time I said everybody else's line on stage because I thought they forgot their lines. You need to wait and like listen and wait. And so he was awesome. And now the fact that I have 2 theater kids, I'm always saying, I remember Mr. Brown told me this. So not
There
as much
we
as
go.
business, but just in life and how to handle yourself.
Andrew, teacher, coach?
Coach, I'm going to say my mentor, Matt DeCourcy, probably easy pick for me. I've seen him. I've been his mentee. He's kind of been a coach of mine since he built Full Scale. So I've been able to watch him just absolutely build that monster of a company. And it was just great to be around somebody brilliant that was doing what I wanted to do at a big level, and just even being able to observe that. I didn't have that for a very long time. And it really has helped me the last 4 or 5 years the most, kind of model, what I'm trying to build and scale. And he really approached everything differently than I would naturally. So it was especially useful for me. Teacher, hard not to say my mom. I was homeschooled till I was 16 years old in Africa.
There's a loophole.
That's fair.
Okay, so my mom, I think I'm probably on the spectrum, if I'm being honest. I've never really been tested out, but just I know myself. And I think my mom, had me reading before kindergarten, and turned probably a lot of my learning disabilities into strengths. And so, I'm going to say Lynn Morgan's mom and extraordinaire.
You didn't see that loophole coming, did you?
Yeah, I did not. I lost that one. Dan, coach or mentor?
I'm going to say Sister Dorothy. And I didn't realize she impacted me until about 10 years ago. But when I was in English, she pulled me aside one time. I really thought I was in trouble. And she said, "Hey, I just want to let you know you're a really good writer." I'm like, "That's it? I'm not in trouble?" She goes, "Nope." I go, "Awesome." And anyway, fast forward, and 12 years ago, in the last 12 years, I've co-written 3 books. So I actually went and saw her. She's in her mid-80s. She may not be alive now. I saw her about 5 or 6 years ago, and she was in a, I don't know what they call it, a nunnery up in Wisconsin. And I was at a conference in Minnesota, so I drove over and saw her. And this is the part that I thought was really interesting. If you haven't thanked your teacher, she might have issues, but she claimed I was the first student that ever came back and thanked her.
Wow.
And she probably taught for 40 years.
Wow.
So if you can still do it, give it a whirl.
That's a mic drop.
I know, isn't that sad?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Aaron, I don't know if I want to ask you that question after that. That was a really good answer.
Mom,
what do we got? This is where Aaron brings the show home.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Hi, Deborah. Look, Deborah just got on here.
Deborah?
Oh, I have to tell you guys. Actually, Deborah, great. This is how I'm going to end the show. Let me pull this photo. If you come up with the best idea ever for a customized shirt, you should hit up Deborah, because we've been talking a lot about my favorite Taylor Swift today. And although this isn't Travis Kelce, look at these sweatshirts Deborah made me and my daughter. They're like the Taylor Swift ones, but with Patrick Mahomes.
Ooh, nice. There we go.
So hit up Deborah if you want some custom-made Chiefs gear, because she can make all of your dreams come true. Thank you so much to Bank of Blue Valley and Burns & McDonnell for sponsoring the show. Thank you so much to Jennifer, Andrew, and Dan for being amazing guests today. And as always, thank you, Scott, for being the best co-host ever. I'll text you back.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. See ya.
Bye. Thank you so much.